majority in the Senate. So you haven't earned it out there on the campaign trail with the American people, and you've only got 40 votes or 45 votes or whatever, and the other side's got 55 votes. Well, who should win? The 55 votes should win. The people that have the majority, even if it's only 51 votes, you should win. And that means the SAVE Act should pass. We have 4 votes probably. Maybe we might get a couple of Democrats. I think Fetterman's for it. So maybe we got 55 or 56 votes. That should be the law of the land. That's how you pass laws. The majority passes laws. And when you let the minority control things, you're in for trouble, buddy. I'm telling you. Chaos. And that's why I've never supported the filibuster. I think what they currently do with this cloture vote and with the 60 votes is absolutely wrong. And so I am all for, and I love the terminology. I think this is good marketing. Exactly what Sherry said, the talking filibuster. That's what we should all be saying. Call your senator and say, support the talking filibuster, not this paper wimpy filibuster or a 60 vote requirement to be able to pass something. The majority should rule. That's 51. Even if it's 50-50 and the vice president has to come over and break the tie. That's good. That's constitutional. That's the way our system was designed, and it actually supports the way that the founders intended it to be. Last few minutes here, and if you want to call and talk about this, I'll try to squeeze you in at 888-589-8840. But there's a hearing happening right now in Congress. My congressman, Chip Roy, fantastic congressman, running for attorney general. Actually, I guess another friend of mine, Mays Middleton, who I'd already endorsed before Chip got in the race, so I'm kind of in a pickle there. But I love Chip, and he's part of this hearing right now, this House subcommittee, to examine Sharia law and how it is not compatible with the U.S. Constitution. Now, it just so happens that tonight I am hosting a special event at the Patriot Academy campus, which, by the way, I forgot to answer that question from the earlier caller. We're hosting an event on what to do about Sharia law. How do we do this? Charlie Kirk's most viral tweet was just a one-line, Sharia law or Islam is not compatible with Western civilization. And it's not. It's not. And we've got to figure out how to win the public relations battle for the definition of freedom of religion, which I don't think includes things that subvert the public good, to use a turn of phrase by the Supreme Court. And Sharia law and Islam subverts the public good. We do not support the things that the Quran supports. We are not okay with child marriage. We are not okay with pedophilia. We are not okay with women having no rights. We are not okay with being able to, I'm sorry, I'm going to be blunt here, beat your wife, and then the imams say that it's okay. This is evil stuff that we do not support in America. It is not compatible with our Constitution and our freedom. And so I don't know what they're covering in the hearing this afternoon in Congress. We'll try to maybe review that and talk about it this Thursday. But the event that we're having tonight at the Patriot Academy campus is what to do about Sharia law, and it's going to feature Frank Gaffney, former Undersecretary of Defense under President Reagan, actually, since we were talking about his birthday. Frank was actually in the room at Reykjavik when Gorbachev and Reagan had their negotiations. Anyway, Frank's going to speak tonight. He's been warning about Islam for an awfully long time, and then we're also going to have Bill Federer. And Bill, if you're not familiar with Bill, well, I'm sure you are. He's been on a lot of our shows here on AFR. He's going to talk about the history of Islam and what every American should know about the Quran. He's got that great book on that subject. Chris Dunham is the dean of the Patriot Institute. He's been warning about Islam for 10 years. He comes from India, where it's like 6 or 7% Islamic and mostly Hindu, but certainly understands this issue. He's spoken in, 100 and something countries around the world, but he runs our institute at the Patriot Academy campus. And in my final 60 seconds, I'll just say this to answer the question about how things are going here. Incredible. They're going amazing. We're still forming Constitution City, Texas. We're still building Independence Hall, so you can study the Constitution in Independence Hall in Constitution City, Texas. And you should plan on joining us on July 4th. We're going to have an amazing celebration for the 250th right here at the Patriot Academy campus. So visit our website, patriotacademy.com, to learn more. patriotacademy.com. I appreciate you listening. You've been listening to At the Core with Walker Wildman and Rick Reed.
The views and opinions expressed in reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
90.5 KTXG, Greenville, Dallas. Getting married, starting a family, their eternal values and ideals. These are core values that shaped this country for so long. These are values and ideals that are rooted in Scripture. They're eternal values and ideals.
At the Core with Walter Wildman and Rick Reed, where culture meets biblical truth. Weekdays at 1 Central on AFR. This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association. For American Family News, I'm Robert Thornton. Fox reports federal authorities released surveillance images and a video showing a masked individual. Investigators say is a subject of interest in the Nancy Guthrie case. Former FBI investigator Bill Daley spoke with Fox.
I think the big thing here is the fact that we have so much now more detail with regard to the image of this person. We have a face mask, which appears to be a ski mask. We'll be able to determine a certain height. The clothing is extremely helpful, and I'm telling you right now is that there are people out there who know who this person is based upon the clothing. Perhaps the reward that's being offered now is an incentive for people to kind of help out.
The FBI is offering a $50,000 reward for information on Guthrie's disappearance. President Donald Trump has a busy schedule this week. He's meeting tomorrow with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The rest of the week, Caroline Levitt said he will focus on energy and deregulation.
President Trump and Republicans fundamentally believe that Americans deserve to keep more of their hard-earned money, not less, which is why he fought so hard to deliver this long overdue relief.
Top U.S. immigration enforcement leaders face a heated House Oversight Committee. Here's Fox's Jeff Manassa.
The hearing on Homeland Security and Oversight quickly got off track as New York Rep. Democrat Dan Goldman compared ICE and its agents to Nazis. Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons.
This is the wrong type of question. I'll tell you what the wrong type of thing is, sir. It's Holocaust Museum. Reclaiming my time, sir. If you want reclaiming my time, Mr. Chairman. Not the men and women of ICE that are out there doing it every day.
Border Patrol Commissioner Rodney Scott also testifying that Democrat presidents have deported far more illegal immigrants than President Trump, blaming recent violent protests on rhetoric. With immigration heads saying that their officers will not be intimidated. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
Immigration leadership is facing backlash after agents shot and killed 2 people in Minneapolis, leading to bipartisan demands for more accountability and for DHS Secretary Kristi Noem to step down or be terminated. The Christian Post says an interfaith coalition has filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration over its Religious Liberty Commission. It contends is unlawfully biased toward Christianity. The complaint was filed yesterday in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York on behalf of many groups. A Massachusetts-based pro-family activist agrees with the Secretary of War when it comes to Harvard University. More from AFN's Chad Groening.
Pete Higgs says beginning with the 2026-2027 school year, the Pentagon is cutting ties with the Ivy League institution, ending all military training, fellowships, and certificate programs for active duty service members. The SecWar said that, quote, "For too long this department has sent our best and brightest officers to Harvard, hoping the university would better understand and appreciate our warrior class. Instead, too many of our officers come back looking too much like Harvard, heads full of globalist and radical ideologies that do not improve our fighting ranks." Hegseth also said, quote, "Harvard is woke, the War Department is not." Brian Kamaker is president of Mass Resistance.
Harvard has just become vile. I wouldn't have anything to do with them or most of those Ivy League schools. They're horrible.
And Kamaker is amused by comments written in far-left media like the Boston Globe.
Harvard's being harassed and discriminated against by the Trump administration. But even here, normal people get Lisa Pkwy.
Hegseth said that similar programs at other Ivy League universities will be evaluated in the coming weeks. I'm Chad Groening.
Fox weather is tracking a cross-country storm expected to bring heavy rain from the desert southwest across the deep south this weekend. The storm system will move out of Baja California into the southwest and southern plains on Friday. Fox Weather's Greg Herrera.
As it moves into portions of the southwest and into Texas, we've got that strong dip in the jet. That also supports one of the storms and also helps to pull up one of the way of moisture. That counterclockwise rotations does the same thing. So the moisture, you will feel it Friday, even Wednesday across the south and southeastern states, where the humidity's coming up a little bit thanks to that southerly flow.
That is all our time for this hour's news. See more news at afn.net.
As we watch world events unfold and fulfill Scripture, it's hard to believe anyone could doubt God and His Word are real. And yet there are so many who either question or completely refuse to believe it. The God Who Speaks is a 90-minute documentary that hits the doubt head-on with evidence that proves God is real and His Word is the ultimate authority. Watch it anytime and invite others to watch with you. Just visit stream.afa.net. That's stream.afa.net.
Hello, and welcome to the Dr. Nurse Mama Show, prescribing hope for healthy families here on American Family Radio. Here's your host, Professor, Pediatric Nurse Practitioner, and Mom of 4, Dr. Jessica Peck.
Well, hey there, friends, and welcome to my favorite time of day, getting to spend time with you, prescribing hope for healthy families. And listen, we are going to talk about a topic today that I constantly get questions about. It doesn't matter where I go, what we talk about on the show, where I see parents in practice, in clinical practice, or I see students who are learning to be healthcare providers, or if I'm in my church, or if I'm just in line at the grocery store. The one subject that brings the most questions from parents everywhere for the last several years is the issue of technology. It is something that we are just still trying to wrap our brains around, and we have this very unique generational gap where we have parents, a generation of parents, whether that's Gen X, whether that's millennials, whether that's baby boomers who are maybe even grandparents raising their grandkids. We are raising a digital native generation. We're raising Gen Z and Gen Alpha who don't just see and expect technology to be present, they expect it to be excellent. They expect it to be fast. They expect it to be good. They expect it to be helpful. And it's really hard when we don't have that lived experience. We don't know what it was like to grow up with a smartphone. And some of you, me included, are thinking, thank the Lord for that. But this is a reality that is facing Gen Z. And what I see is a lot of times very negative messages that go to them. Like, this is a terrible time to be alive. And we see the cultural darkness. But today, we're going to find hope and help, and most importantly, the light of Christ shining through all of that cultural chaos. Screens are everywhere. Our kids are living in a screen-saturated world. They are on our walls. They're in our pockets. They're in our kids' backpacks. They're everywhere that we go. They're in cars. Parents know something feels off, but just so many of us don't know, where do we even start? And most importantly, how do we respond without fear? Because there's so much fear that is driving the motivation of response here. Or maybe besides fear, there's guilt. Like, I don't feel like I'm doing the best, but I don't know how to do any better. Or just the extremes of, hey, let's just all go back to the Patriot Family era. Let's go back to Little House on the Prairie. Like, let's go back to times without technology. Or, let's just dive in and have a Jetsons kind of house here. Today's conversation is about moving from reaction to responding with biblical clarity. And my guest today is a frequent guest. I've got back with me today Dr. Josh Mulvihill. He's a pastor, he's an author, he's a husband, he's a father, he's an executive director of church and family ministry at Renew a Nation, and he has written a book. We did a series all last year called Worldview Wednesday. You can go back and look for those on the podcast at afr.net or any podcast platform, where we really walked through how do you be intentional on to helping your child develop a biblical worldview. And today I have him back to talk about 2 articles that he's written, which he frequently writes and puts out resources for families. And we'll talk about a compelling case that media isn't neutral. It is a form of digital discipleship. And parents have to lead with intentionality. We can't just be passive about this. And while information abounds, wisdom is scarce. And it's not about banning technology or living in fear. It's about asking better questions. What is shaping our children? Who is discipling them? How do we steward technology for God's glory instead of letting it shape our homes by default? So, Josh, so grateful to have you back. Thank you so much for joining us and asking good questions. How are you? How are your family? How's your family? And you have big news to share with us, and I'm excited to share it.
Yes, it's good to be back, and hello, Jessica. Yeah, the big news for our family is our oldest son just got engaged a few weeks ago. So we're gaining a daughter. Yeah, we're super excited. Wedding this summer. That's the first of our kids to go down that path. So new for us, but very excited.
That is super exciting. You know, it's funny because my husband is the only son in his family, and so my father-in-law, he wanted to make sure I knew that I was part of his family, and he's like, "You are not my daughter-in-law, you're my daughter." I'm like, "Dad, you're gonna have to say I'm your daughter-in-law, because otherwise it's just raising all kinds of questions. Don't introduce me as your daughter-in-law. That is okay." But it's so exciting to be in that series of firsts, and you have a new podcast coming out too. So that's exciting. Tell us about that.
It's called the Gospel Shaped Family Podcast, and the hope is that it helps people develop a biblical worldview, especially in their parenting and grandparenting. So we talk about subjects along those lines. It's my wife and I. So if you've ever listened to a couple podcasts, they just have a little bit of a fun dynamic because of that aspect. So conversational, grab coffee with us as we talk about our life and what that looks like with our kids. And then we hit just a broad range of topics. So we just covered how do you navigate crushes with kids. We're kind of down this path, obviously, with our son getting married, and with February, the month of love. Our kids, it seems to generate these things in the world we live in, both in school, especially in February, but